Okay, we're about ready, and we have our first question up front.
Hi, Coach. Sandy Hooper, USA Today Sports. You were front and center in the 10-second rule debate in the offseason. Do you think that debate is finished, and why are you so passionate about it?
Do you think what?
Do you think the debate is finished?
The question is, in case you couldn't hear it because I could barely hear it, I was front and center in the 10-second rule. I prefer to look at it this way, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. The Rules Committee came forward with an idea to pass a 10-second rule. I will be noted that it was a 12-second rule until I spoke up and said we should make it 10-second. So all those negative Nellies out there can take that. But I think the great thing that I was front and center on is player safety. And that'll never waver in anything that I believe in. I can't say that enough. I think my players understand that. I think coaches who truly know me understand that. If my opinion doesn't fit yours, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. Everybody's got one and deserves to express it. But you know, people use comments I say in different ways, and I understand as a head coach you got to be aware of that. But there are so many things that were misconstrued that were kind of taken out of text. I just am never going to waver in player safety. However we need to get to it, whether it's a 10-second rule, whether it's a fair substitution rule that someone passes on first down. You know, there's a lot of things that out of that committee. I was trying to get that 10-second rule just on first down, so that it could not every play, just on first down. That was it. So there's a million things that were discussed, but I was the one that was I guess myself and a couple others were selected, and I'll gladly take that. If it brings to light player safety, I'll take it every day.
Luke Simons, KX HD over in College Station. Are you glad that the rivalry between A&M and Arkansas is going back to Jerry World? And I know you lose a home game that way year to year, but do you like it? And just talk about that.
I do. You know, we're very unique at Arkansas in the fact that every year we'll get to play a stadium game at two other stadiums besides ours. We'll play in Little Rock at War Memorial, which is a long-standing tradition of Arkansas football, and now we'll resume the history of playing A&M and Jerry's World at AT&T. And you know, I was very fortunate this year. Jerry Jones came to Fayetteville, and I was out of town, but I was able to read an article where he said that to have A&M and Arkansas play in his stadium was one of the most rewarding things in his career. And for a man that stands for what he is and what he's attributed or contributed to the world of not just NFL football, college football, football in general, that speaks volumes. And then for us, we call them Tex Hogs. So when we go into Arkansas, we're looking for kids that want to come and or we go into Texas, we look for kids that want to come to Arkansas. There's so many times where an aunt, an uncle, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, a grandma, a grandpa, somebody's got a tie to Arkansas, you know, that lived in you know, wherever, you know, and they have this tie to Arkansas that gives us a little bit of a chance, and then they come and see a part of what we are. For us to play a game every year in Jerry Jones Stadium is worth its weight in gold. Yep.
Mike Irwin, KNWA Fayetteville. Gary Pinkel didn't just disagree with you. He called it a bogus issue and said there was no evidence to support it. And my question is, do you guys ever talk about this face-to-face like in Destin, or is this just stuff that comes out in press conferences?
No, it's talked about. We definitely talked about it at SEC meetings. I think people become a little more confident in what they say at certain times. Or maybe become a little more precise in what they're saying. But Coach Pinkel has tremendous success, and if that's his opinion, he's allowed to do that. And I, you know, feel glad that he feels as strong as he does about that. I think that over the next year, the great thing that happened, I think, you know, I don't have time to do statistical research and data, but I've had a lot of people contact me about that. So there might be some you know, some information coming your way. I think the great thing is, you know, there's all kinds of information that shows you just the number of reps and the number of opportunities. It's just common sense increases your chance of injury. So by rule, if you have more reps, then you're going to have a chance for more injuries. I mean, it's plain and simple. If I need to do math class 101, I'll do it again as much with anybody as they want to go. But that's what it is.
Very back.
Coach Doc Holliday, ABC 24 Memphis. It seemed like this year you all are trying to embrace history, the history of the Arkansas football program. Of course, 1964 team won the national championship. Is that something you're talking about, or just want to, you know, of course, improve on last year's season? You
know, I think it's all about player education. I'll just take, I'm one of those coaches, I get heavily involved. My athletic communication director Zach Higbee may not like me for it, but I like to look at everything. I want to become involved in media covers. I like to have a message or a theme. You know, I'm just, it's something that intrigues me. A year ago, they came to me and said, hey, Coach, why don't we be the first team in the history of college football to have our three guys that are going to media day have their Twitter accounts on the media, and everybody's like, ooh, you know, like we invented the wheel or something, and all we did is we were the first to do it. This year, we thought we'd go a little old school. We're honoring the 1964 national championship team. Obviously, Coach Broyles was the head coach, but you have guys like Jerry Jones, Barry Switzer, you know, Jimmy Johnson that were on those teams, and there's a lot of history on that 1964 team that are absolutely amazing, and to teach our kids. So our media shot of our current team mirroring that other team, you know, but just to show the differences. I'm sure that it wasn't, the first thing probably wasn't the difference in size, is that there had been, there were African Americans on our team that weren't on that team, and to show the growth of college football, and especially at the University of Arkansas, to show our guys, hey, they'd all heard about 1964. I guarantee probably 99% of the guys in my room, until they looked at that picture, realized that there weren't any African Americans on that football team. And to come full circle to where we are now, to me, that's my job as a coach, is to help educate not only our players, but help our coaches and everybody else come along.
Stu McCann, ABC Birmingham. Coach, the philosophies, I guess, between yourself and Gus Malzahn are well noted, but what's your relationship with Coach in those, like, SEC meetings and whatnot?
You know what? Maybe we should let you guys in those meetings. It'd clear up a lot of speculation. Let one of you randomly be selected. We'll put that in the new SEC suggestion box on Coach Slive's desk. But the part that's, I think that's a little bit, it's easy for people to write the contrast. Gus is from Arkansas. He's got a history as Arkansas, and for him and I not to like each other makes a great story. But the truth is, there's probably a much more respect than you can ever imagine. He has success by doing something completely opposite of what I believe in offensively. You know, defense, kind of similar philosophies as far as strategy and stuff. But to me, that's like the compliment in the highest regards. He has success doing something that I really don't believe in. Now, do I believe it can have success? Obviously, look at it. It has it. That's what it's all based upon. I've never had any ill words with Gus, never had any bad feelings, never had any heated arguments. Even, I think, at SEC meetings, not to tell you a seating chart, but on my immediate right was Coach Saban, and then Coach Freeze was there, and in between it, and the next guy over was Coach Malzahn, and so he was easily reachable. I never reached for him. I didn't, and Hugh never protected us. I think it's a bunch of guys that love competing, and we may have the biggest disagreement on our minds and on our tongues, but there's a great amount of respect, and you know, I haven't, maybe you may not notice, I haven't won an SEC game, so until I do that, I understand. I think I've won a lot of games, and I know what I'm doing, and just for us to get there, it's going to be very rewarding when it happens.
Coach, Mark Freeman, WAAY out of Huntsville. What was the conversation like between you and Trey Flowers and bringing him back for his senior season?
It was an absolute, for me, it was a very a warming moment, a heartfelt moment. I said this to another group earlier today. You know, one of the disadvantages I had coming over and taking over his job is I didn't recruit all these young men. I didn't go to Trey Flowers' home. One of the rules as a head coach in college football, you can only go one time to the home. So if I'm recruiting you, I can only come once. You know, I'd go to your home, I'd meet mom and dad, hopefully if they're in the same home. If not, I'd go to two homes. I'd probably go to work. I'd go to work where your mom works, where your dad works. I'd go to grandma's house, grandpa's house. I'd go to church where you go to church. I'm going to try to fit as much as I can into that day to find out as much as I can about you. And I didn't know a lot about Trey. I knew that, you know, he was a great player. He did well academically. I'd met his mom and his dad, but I had never been to his home. But then you walk in the home, and you realize you go into this room that his dad had put together that had every accomplishment that not only every one of, or not just Trey, but every one of his sons, there's, I believe, 7 of them now, 7 or 9, 7, I believe. Every accomplishment they had, every graduation, every award, every Little League trophy, and that dad had a lot of pride. And when I showed him that I'm going to continue to work with what you have, but we're going to take him to an even higher level, so when the NFL comes calling, he's going to even have a higher value. I think that said a lot to him and his mom. Trey kind of already knew who we were, but he wanted to show his mom and dad what we're all about. It was a ride that myself and Coach Herbert, Ben Herbert, went over there together, and it was great for me, but also hopefully great for the University of Arkansas.
Andrew Alexander, Pelican Broadcasting. You ended last season on a sour note against LSU on a last-second loss. How are y'all using that game and really the season as a whole as motivation for this year moving forward?
It's a great question. I think twofold. First, we didn't want to lose that game, but the blessing in disguise came in this, that it's a game that we could have easily won. I said this earlier in the big group, a lot of you are in there, that a lot of times games are lost rather than won. And I'm not taking away from LSU. They executed and did a great job. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when we lost on a play that we had executed earlier in the game to perfection. But at the end of the game, when it was needed at its most, we failed. And I think I stress to our kids that we do a lot of things very, very well, especially early in the games. We score early in games against teams that ended up beating us, some of them handily beating us, but we came in, we expected to win, we got success, and then when the time came to rise up, when you're getting punched in the face, we didn't react the way that you wanted to. We got to learn to respond to adversity a lot better. I think as coaches, we need to be crystal clear on what we're saying. I don't want our players trying to decide during the course of the game if they heard things correctly, if they're playing the right technique, if they're executing the correct call. That should be the least of our concerns. So we really tried to simplify and identify how we communicate as a staff, as a team, and then hopefully have better results on Saturdays.
Coach, both Missouri and Arkansas both have different rivals. We've talked about them, Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas with LSU, now with Texas A&M as well. Now they're starting their own rivalry. Will this ever become maybe the main rivalry for both of these schools?
Well, it probably depends if it's fiction or not. I don't know we caught on to that joke. Holy cow. You guys are slow. I thought that was a punchline for sure. I think the thing that is awesome is, you rattled off that in your idea, our rivalries are LSU and A&M, which is great. I'm 100% with you, but I also love playing Alabama. I also love playing the rest of the SEC West and our crossover games of the SEC East. And in our mind, certain fans are going to have an appreciation and an idea of what the rivals are, but every game's got to be a rivalry. If you try to put too much on one game or the other, especially where we're at as Arkansas, you're never going to get to where you want to be. But on the flip side of it, I'm excited about the Missouri game, to play on the Friday after Thanksgiving, to have two completely different offensive philosophies, to have head coaches that believe in one side of thinking versus the other side of thinking. I have respect out the door for Coach Pinkel. I mean, for him to stay as long as he has and do what he does speaks volumes about who he is. Dave Steckel, in my coaching profession, I got to know him when I was a 22-year-old, young punk, and he was a guy established in the business, and now he's a greatly respected defensive coordinator. I have a lot of ties to that staff. I think that's going to make it fun. We have a lot of border battles in recruiting, that we have kids that are kind of deciding between the two schools. So my guess is it's going to establish a great rivalry in a short amount of time.
Very back.
Coach in the back here, Jake Young from WJHL, Johnson City, Tennessee. For you, this is year 2. Not the first time you've gone through this. In your past experience, do you feel like year 2 is kind of critical to making sure that team is buying into what your vision is for it?
I get it from the outside world looking in. You can say that, and it makes obviously great sense. But from a head coaching perspective, they're all critical. Year 1, believe me, if kids didn't believe in what we were doing or what we were going through or how we were going about it, you wouldn't have seen the growth that you saw a year ago. We just weren't physically ready to make that. I always say this, the 5 edges of Arkansas, a little catchy cliche, all right? The 5 edges, like the Razorback hump, all right? There's 5 edges to what we are. Number 5 on that list is we earn everything. In life, the things that you're kind of just given, whether you win them in lotto or maybe somebody wants to give you a new pair of sneakers or whatever it is, the things that you just give them without working for them, they usually don't last. They don't stand the test of time. But if you do something that you earn that A, you earn a scholarship, you earn a victory, you earn a conference title, you earn a invitation to the 14 playoff, you earn those things, they last forever. And that's one of the things that we really try to take our players and make them grab a hold of, and I think it's taking an effect.
Lauren Sisler, WIAT 42. Trey Flowers said that he's not real thrilled about playing up-tempo offenses, but preparing for them, looking at Auburn going into the season, now that there's less surprises, do you anticipate preparation for Auburn to be a little bit easier now?
I don't think Auburn and the word easy will ever be in the same sentence. I think they'll be stronger. Obviously they return a quarterback that is operating that offense at a high level, playing his best football at the end of the year. I think that overall their numbers on offense and defense, I can't tell you the exact numbers, but they have a lot of people back on both sides of the football. I appreciate where Trey is coming from, and just it's very difficult to simulate an up-tempo offense during practices. You have to. What we do is we use 2 huddles to kind of simulate the same thing. On the flip side of it, when we get to the point of play that we want to be at offensively, it's going to be very hard to simulate what we do. It's hard to take a 240-pound fullback and come down and smack you in the face when you don't have one on your roster. So I think there's a lot of give and take, and we're going to continue to do what we do on a daily basis to get to where we want to be.
Hey, Coach. Patrick Clay, KALB in Alexandria. We're talking a lot about history and rivalries, and this is going to be the first year where you're not playing LSU on that Friday after Thanksgiving, first time in a long time. Do you think that rivalry will still continue, even though maybe it's not as much of a primetime slot?
Yeah, absolutely. That game will be in Fayetteville. We'll play them, I believe it's about midway through the season, and regardless when you play LSU and Coach Miles and everything that he brings to the table, and whatever color jerseys they're going to wear and what we're going to wear, it'll be fun to kind of figure out. I can never get them straight, so it'll be a great game, and no matter what the environment is and no matter what time it is.
You talked earlier about sitting at the table with all those SEC coaches. How are you enjoying the recruiting battles that are happening, especially in the SEC West, every single day, even in the off season?
Well, I enjoy the ones we win a lot better than the ones we lose. I tell you that. It is awesome. I tell you what, it's weird to say it, and you're going to go against certain kids, all right? I got a kid in Little Rock, Hunter Henry, and when I first got there, Hunter had he could have gone anywhere in the country, and I really thought it got down to us in Alabama, which was the case. He came to our place and is going to be a great player. And, there was another kid in-state that year that we battled the same school. He ended up going to Alabama, and he is what it is. What we kind of say is this, we got to stay true to who we are. I don't care who's recruiting them. If we think that a kid can come to Arkansas and achieve academic, athletic, and social success, I don't care if Mount Vernon's recruiting them, all right? And I don't care who is on their ranking. I don't care if they got 5 stars or 2 stars. If we evaluate them and we believe they can win, I want to recruit them. Sometimes that means we battle other SEC schools. I don't care. I don't care who's recruiting them. It may mean that we don't recruit any. We may be battling, no other SEC school and no other Big 12 school. I don't care. Keep recruiting them. You got to find the kids that fit your program and what they stand for, and figure out how to get them on your campus. The great thing for us is once we get them to Fayetteville, it usually sells itself. We got a great place, a great institution. We got great people. I always say, here's a church, here's a steeple, open doors, and here's 1 million people. You learn it when you're little, when you don't know any other prayers. But I think the great thing is, like you learn when you're little, there's 1 million churches and there's 1 million steeples, but it's the people inside that make a difference. And I think for us at Arkansas, that's going to hold true, and it will be whether we're 3-9, 9-3, or 12-0, it's going to make a difference.
We have time for 2 more questions, one in the back.
Hey, Coach. Prince
Yes.
Elliott from WAT in Knoxville. The BCS was very good to the SEC and vice versa. In your opinion, how can this new 4-team playoff benefit this conference?
Well, first off, the playoff committee has a chair that's unbelievable. He's my AD. He I think will guide that group. I just said this in the other room. The great thing about that committee, I believe, is 14 people with Jeff and the whole crew. The voices that are on that are unbelievable. Jeff obviously is my AD now. My former AD, Barry Alvarez, despite all that was said and done, after my departure, is a guy that I think has a wealth of knowledge in the world of college football. He's been unbelievable. Coached at Notre Dame and won national championships. He coached at Wisconsin and turned the program around. To have his voice in there, to have Condoleezza Rice. Condoleezza came and spoke. We have a speaker circuit that brings in national speakers, and I made all 120 of my guys go over and listen to her talk, and then they had to give a feedback and report back to us as coaches. And to have those guys go listen to Condoleezza Rice and have them be mesmerized about her stories and the way she talked and the way she said things. Now, someday if we need her vote, I don't mind her knowing there's 120 hogs watching her talk. So I think that was a good thing. But also the exposure she brings is going to bring another voice to that committee. So I think there's some really cool dynamics. If it's 4 players, four teams, the teams that finish 5 and 6, even though they get to play in a great bowl game, they're going to be upset. So, you're going to constantly have that. But let's start at 4, see where she goes, and see what happens.
Final question over here.
Hey, Coach, TJ Worry, WJTV, Jackson, Mississippi. You came to the Jackson Touchdown Club last year, and I remember you telling the group you were set at Wisconsin, but you wanted to come to Arkansas for the challenge. How do you feel like you've handled that challenge going into year 2?
Well, it's just beginning. It was a challenge that I know. I got a 6-year contract for a reason. I think that you go into the SEC and you're taking over a program that was a little bit on the rocks, and you go in there and you establish what you believe in, what you feel good about. All the things that I've asked for have come 100% true, except for the wins. I think that I see Bray standing over there. If you ask our players, if you ask our administration, anything and everything that we stand for as coaches has begun to happen in a very positive light. Our GPA, APR, our community service, the lack of off-the-field issues, the way our kids have conducted themselves on and off the field is second to none. All those things are in a straight word arrow straight up. And the only thing that needs to change is the wins. And that will happen, and it will happen because of all those other things beginning to happen. It's a formula to success that I firmly believe in. It happened at Wisconsin, but I also saw it in development at all the other places I've been at and a bunch of other coaches that I studied.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much. Woo Pig.